I would like to know, what was the hardest anime series for you to direct?
The hardest? Probably Beck. Beck Mongolian Tropical.
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
There's so many technical aspects with the show itself. There's the dual language issue. The show has both English and Japanese in it. You had to work around that. It was the first time I'd ever worked with Funimation. It was the first time I worked with a co-director before. Two co-directors, technically, because we had a music director also, Chris Bevins and Mike McFarlane. There were issues of copyright and replacement to things that were actually in the story that we couldn't use and we had to write around. All of our actors had to be able to sing.
I'm a huge fan of Beck, so...
Yeah, same here.
Oh, thank you.
I was wondering why you would say it's hard. It seemed like because of the dual language it'd be slightly easier.
Well, no, because we couldn't acknowledge the dual language.
Oh, that's true.
So we had to work around it. It was one of the... I actually took the job because it was
challenging?
Yeah, I literally, like, I had gotten a phone call from Bevins, who was the other director. He's like, yeah, we just got back at Funimation. I'm like, I pity the poor son of a bitch who has to do that. Wow. Like, want to come out to Texas? I'm like, oh, god damn it.
I shouldn't have opened my mouth, right?
Yeah, no, literally, I road tripped to Texas and slept on people's couches for a year. And
It's really, I really love how musical the series is, and the rewrites of all the songs, I love them. I wish I could find a CD. I have a whole Japanese soundtrack, like, rocking out.
There's no fun. The American, I will say that the American soundtrack is there is stuff I'm so proud of in there. There's one particular track. How well do you know the show?
I
read the manga first, so I know the manga version better. I know.
Do you know the character Jewel? Do you remember the acoustic guitar girl?
Yes, I remember very clearly.
We paid very close attention because we knew a bunch of characters at the very end of the animated series show up just for like a few lines, but they're all big characters in the manga.
Yeah.
So we all cast them with really good voice actors. Like we're like, okay, we're gonna make sure that this 3 lines is by someone who, if they come back, we get a second season, please God. So we literally, like, for this one character, Jill, she never talks in the show, she just sings, and we couldn't use her song. And so I drove to Seattle, Washington, where one of our voice actresses named Katie Gray, who does the voice of Ceres Victoria in Hellsing, lived at the time. And she's also a singer-songwriter. It's her day job. Is she's a... They're chasing her right now.
I guess so.
Police girl's in trouble.
She fought the law won. Okay. And literally, like, drove up to Seattle and found a recording studio and had her sit down and compose a quick piece of music and sing it. And like that song only exists in like Ceres Victoria singing like this. I'll dig it up in a second. I think I've got it on my
I'm
iPad.
a fan spazzer. That's so cool. I don't think too many people know that.
No, it's one of those weird little
gem story here.
Weird little bits, and Beck's got so much stuff like that.
Speaking of fun stuff to do with anime, I have been dying to ask you this question. If you could have any of the special abilities of one of the characters from Speedgrapher, who's would you choose?
Oh my god, so many good ones to pick.
Wow.
I mean,
I can honestly
if that camera right there took a picture of you and you'd explode.
No one has ever asked me that before.
I'm a huge fan of Speedgrapher.
I love Speedgraphers so much.
It's really funny.
God, so many fabulous decisions to choose from.
It's very dark.
God, I love The Dentist. Let me think.
Oh, he was creepy.
Yeah, I'm too bad of a photographer to ever have that power, but I'm a weird X-Men nut. I would love the ability to turn into Diamond. I think that's. I know that just sounds weird. I just think that sounds like a.
He was one of the more interesting. I was sad he wasn't in so very long.
Yeah, she was. But, oh God, I love that show so much. It's just it's so messed up.
It is. My friend and I make this joke about someday we're going to get him to cosplay Sweetangu in an AX in the fur coat, and we're gonna have a bunch of people with a case of water wheeling behind him.
He's got that character's got so many. That's also the blood telekinesis.
This is pretty scary.
Oh, so creepy.
Greg Ayers' character is my favorite because he was sort of very deadpan up until this one scene where everything the shit hit the fan, and then he goes, "Someone get me new phone!"
he actually recorded that whole show wearing a nose patch so that they could get the sound. I have a picture somewhere. I'd have to look up because they were recording the day I showed up in Texas, and I have this great picture of him wearing his leather nose harness while recording.
Wow. Oh wow.
All the fangirls out there watching right now. They're like, we need that picture now. Between voice acting and directing Street Fighter 4, what was the biggest difficulty you came across?
For Street Fighter 4?
Just the Street Fighter 4 series in general.
The difficulty with Street Fighter, the biggest difficulty is, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
There are so many difficult parts of recording those games. We don't have, the biggest difficulty is we don't have picture. So oftentimes they'll be like, we have this character that we want you to record, and she's a girl, so let's start casting.
So,
you're like,
so basically, it's like
what kind of girl?
So like you go inside, like I've heard actually how the Funimation works. Like you go inside like a recording booth and you have to do this character, you have to record the lines, but you can't see the character, or you can't.
Normally with anime you can.
With anime,
but with video games especially, and like this is true specifically with Street Fighter. A lot of the times they're like, well, we don't have any art we can show you yet, but send us the auditions and we'll kind of figure it out for you. And you go like, okay.
Okay.
And sometimes it works out really, it usually works out really pretty well. But like, then you get into the things where there's just no picture, so that we can't do lip sync, and you're doing special moves and you don't really quite know what the flow of the special move is, and so you just sort of do your best guess and hope that the animation sticks. And that's the one thing if like that is always kind of a fight, is trying to figure out how to make the voices sit really nicely with the animation when you don't have animation yet. It's sort of like building a car. You're building a car engine and you're building the car, but you're not allowed to know anything about the car. And the car people are not allowed to know anything about your engine, but they're just supposed to fit together really nicely. And you do your best guess. You've had it described to you. You've seen some sketches, and the sketches are really good. So,
how were you able to put up with Adon's voice? Considerably, his voice is like really like high pitched, like squeak, like kind of almost, I wouldn't say squeaky, but really up there. You know,
squeaky. Well, voice once you if you work as a voice actor, one of the things you do is you get very used to figuring out where your voice can sit comfortably and places you can put it. Your voice can sit in a bunch of different places. And Adon just basically sits up here. So everything sort of goes right above the throat. I barely feel it. So, wow. Yeah, he's so high up in the throat. I can do 4 hours. He's actually easier than Blanca.
Real? I would imagine. Yeah, Blanca is real. I would imagine is really hard as well.
I do him an hour at a time. Yeah. There's Blanca. I do an hour at a time. Although I'm getting better at it, so I can do him a little longer these days. There's an actor named Fred Tatasciore. That's mine. Ignore it. There's an actor named Fred Tatasciore who does the voice of the Hulk on the Avengers cartoon. And I don't know. Like I've watched him go like 2 hours, 3 hours, and I don't know how that man lives. He's. I mean, it's. You get used to. You find the places you're comfortable in, and you learn what it feels like when you're doing damage, and you don't do that. So.
Yeah, like I've tried doing I remember the way back when, like I remember if I go too high, my voice starts scratching. That's why I leave it to the professional.
You get scratchy, and if you keep doing it, you eventually develop a node, and that will never go away. And then you're like, well, I've lost chunks of my voice before I knew what I was doing.
Speaking of how different ranges and all. I'm sort of an amateur voice actress, and sometimes I do a lot of singing, as opposed to like some people will sit there and they'll translate a song from an anime and then do a fan cover, and I do that a lot. But my voice acting for just speaking lines is severely lacking. I don't suppose you have any tips for like someone who wants to do both or just one or the other.
Acting. That's usually not only just take a class, but do some theater. Like take some classes, do some theater, get comfortable with it, figure out if this is something that you're. Acting is really uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good.
I'm just sitting here doing an interview, and I'm a journalism student. I'm sitting here and I'm shaking.
Yeah. No, and you, especially in an acting class. I mean, they'll give you material that's designed to make you uncomfortable, and like. Getting into a room of people, and you sit down, and there's like a video camera going, and you've got like 35 people, whoever else is in the room, and you have to start. All right, now I'm going to start doing a scene where I'm going to talk about my father molesting me when I was 6. And you're like, okay, yeah, apparently I have to get good at this. Okay, I don't want to talk about this. This is really, it didn't actually happen, but I have to. Oh, this is just awful. But like you have to, like you get through that, and you learn so much about it.
Oh, really? Okay. Last question. I'm just curious. So, what are some of the challenges that you that you face, like with the like going from like Japanese obviously to English, and like in terms of script writing?
Oh, the whole process is not designed to be done. It's really.
So I know, like, again, there's some jokes that work in Japanese, or they work in English. You have to redo that.
Joe, you're welcome to tell him like one more second. There are so many levels at which Japanese is not designed to translate into English. That it's.
We're wrapping it up. We're in the last one.
Every aspect of it is designed not to work. It's my favorite part of the process because a good adaptation script is really the foundation of a good dub. I know I wish I could say that there's one particular part of it that's difficult, but the whole thing is difficult. It's really awful on every level. Songs are particularly difficult. Poetry. A couple times we've had to adapt poetry, and that's.
Trying to translate Japanese from like, oh my god, Japanese to English.
Yeah, we had to do the poetry of EQ, like traditional Japanese poetry, and that was a nightmare. There's little chunks in the video game Sengoku Basara of like folk music too that was very hard to.
Sengoku Basara, yeah, we watched that series, fun series.
That's fun.
Love that game and the series.
There's stuff I'm so proud of in that game. There's stuff I'm so very proud of.
They're so over the top and so ridiculous.
Jackie should have been up here with us. It's like her favorite right now.
Yeah, no, I got like I remember demoing it for someone at Comic-Con. They're like. It sounds really ridiculous. I'm like, have you looked at the show? It's completely ridiculous. Of course it sounds ridiculous.
It's escaping me. Who did you voice?
I didn't voice anybody
I know I saw your name on the wiki article when I was researching you and all the others.
I did some incidentals, but mostly I was the head script adapter for the Basara game, and I directed the whole game, and then I directed a couple bits for the animated series.
So with dual audio, Date Masamune, he has a tendency to like randomly screech things in English.
Are you ready, guys?
Get your guns on!
Get your guns on!
Actually, the pre-coverage, I put a video of that.
Yeah. Oh, well, really quick to wrap it up. So, this is Anime Expo. Like, there's 20 animators. It's like all the all the people that they got. It just in all the events. It's just absolutely amazing. So I'm curious as to what you're looking forward to as not only as a guest but also as an attendee as well.
Honestly, just seeing a bunch of old friends. I've been coming to Anime Expo in one form or another since 1991.
Wow.
All 20 years?
No, I've skipped a few, but I.
That's like right when it started.
Yeah, AnimeCon.
Yeah,
AnimeCon
91 was the first year.
No, I think they did 90. They had AnimeCon 90, I think. 91 or 92. First or second year, but it was a very different. It's nice to see some old friends, people who only come out for this show. Mostly it's just to catch up with people and talk to the few other people who do this for a living, so that we can kind of trade notes. But yeah, that's more or less it.
Well, Mr. Jaffe, we really do appreciate your time, and we look forward to if either we see you on the floor, maybe we'd like to talk some more.
Absolutely.
On a panel or something like that. Or something
I've got a